This is Without Your Head, and I'm Big Ronnie. And the Greasy Strangler loves Without Your Head.
Welcome to the station of decapitation Without Your Head. I'm Nasty Neil, and I'm joined by Elizabeth Razzo, Janet of the Greasy Strangler. How you doing?
Hi, I am doing good.
Excellent.
How are you?
I'm very good, very good. It's a pretty nice day here, actually. Last week it was snow, and it's actually pretty warm. Well, it's like 50. Warm for me.
Oh.
Yeah. So, when you first heard the name Greasy Strangler, what did you think?
Well, I got the script first. My agent sent it to me. And I was working on another TV series at the time, Idiot Sitter for Comedy Central. And he said, like, you got to look at this. He's like, I think this is going to be huge. He's like, it's like Napoleon Dynamite on steroids. And I was like, okay, well, I'll give it a read and I'll let you know. And because he really wanted me to go in for it. Mm-hmm. And after I read it, I was like, I personally liked it as like a fan of like films because it reminded me a lot of this I guess of John Waters' earlier films like Pink Flamingo. But then when I realized that the role that I would be reading for would be for Janet, I was like, oh hell no, no. And I'm like, oh, I'll totally watch it as like a moviegoer. I do not want to do like these things that are happening.
Right.
So I was pretty adamant that I wasn't going to go in, and it kind of stayed like that until the day before, until the morning of the audition. And then they convinced me to go in, so I went and read. And they called me in for a chemistry read, and I really didn't want to go in for that either because I was scared to taking it on. I mean, because like you saw the final product, and although now I've grown to appreciate it and grown to like really like I get the vision and everything that they were going for. As an actor, it was a little scary to tackle. But I'm glad I did. You know, I actually learned a lot about myself as an actress. It's been a crazy ride, and just to see the reception that people have given it, it kind of makes me, it ends up being like, okay, like, you know, like, yes, you did this and people like it. Cause you know, I was afraid of what people were going to say, and I was self-conscious about it. And also I was afraid what my family was going to say, but I took one of my sisters saw it, in Austin at the Fantastic Fest along with my cousins, and they loved it. My sister's like, I don't know what you were afraid of. I love it. So I guess it was just all in my head. Yeah.
Well, it's definitely not for everybody, but I could see, you know, like when I'm watching, I think it's hilarious, but definitely, if I was reading it, like, I don't know if I myself would want to be, doing that. But when you did see the finished product, was it, you know, with all the music in it and set it together, like, was it how you thought it would come out, or was it different? Was it better or worse?
It was better. Well, I mean, like, the first time that I saw it at Sundance, and the first time that I saw it, it was very hard for me to be,
subjective?
To be subjective, because I was so in my head about, you know, people's reactions or what they were going to say with, you know, like, you know, and then we had a few walkouts, which then we ended up just kind of wearing like a badge of honor because at the time people had walked out from our movie and from Swiss Army Man?
Yeah, Swiss Army Man, right.
Yeah. So it was kind of like a badge of honor, like if you're walking out of the midnight showing for a Greasy Strangler, but I still couldn't really be subjective with it. But then the second time that I saw it, I was like, oh, I get it. And then the third time I saw it, I was like, oh, holy crap. Just everything sort of came together for me. And then now I was seeing it as a moviegoer as opposed to as an actress criticizing her work.
Yeah.
And just like the kind of, the atmosphere, like that was created. Like, I think Christina, which I think I just saw that she got nominated for something, which I was really hoping that she would, because the work that she did for our costumes and also the set designers, just like the world that was created for our characters that we lived in, was pretty freaking awesome. And yeah, I mean, like, now I see it and I'm like, okay, I get this. Like, this is a really cool, like, funky, kind of twisted film. You know, and either you love it or hate it, but you don't go, you never leave going like, I don't really care for it. You either, it's a polarizing film. Like, you love it or you hate it, and that's it. But you remember it.
That's
you definitely remember it.
Definitely. That's why I've said the exact same thing, because everyone I know either loves it like myself, or they just watch it and they're like, you know, what is wrong with you? Why do you like that? And I said the same thing. No one just goes, it's, you know, okay. It's definitely, which I think is, I would prefer someone to have a strong opinion one way or the other about, you know, something you do. Yeah. So, what was Jim Hosking like as a director? Because I watched your commentary or your interview on the Blu-ray, and you were like one of the only people that were not necessarily just totally gung-ho about him.
Well, I mean, the thing is, we also have to understand, Sky had worked with Jim before.
Yeah,
that's what everyone did, I think. A relationship going into it. Myself, like, I had never worked with him. And I was hesitant from the very beginning. I was never shy about my feelings, about being hesitant about the film. And so I was a little less trusting, I think. I kind of had to, like, for me, it was like, okay, you have to earn my trust on set because of what we were dealing with. You know, like, just when it came to the sex scenes and the nudity and stuff like that. But I mean, I think he did a great job. I think he did a fantastic job. And I think that, you know, we shot this in 3 weeks in Los Angeles for a very, very small budget. And he did, you know, what he needed to do and what he, I mean, I don't know that if he did everything he wanted to do, but yeah, I mean, like, it wasn't like, I wasn't like, oh yes, you know, like, he was like awesome. And I don't think he'd say the same thing about me, because there was that hesitancy on my part as well. So I think that we worked well, you know, together. And, but I think I get his vision. I mean, because he also co-wrote the movie with Toby, and like, I get his vision, and he's that kind of like, he reminds me of like an, oh my gosh, I'm thinking of this director, Royal Tenenbaum.
Oh, yeah.
Paul Anderson?
Yes, Paul Anderson,
yeah, so he kind of reminds me of that, like, that kind of vibe. And, I mean, he's a very nice guy. Like, don't get me wrong. He's a very, very nice guy. And I think for me, more the hesitancy was part of that I wasn't completely comfortable with the material. And that's where we sometimes butted heads, for sure. But I think in the end, like, the finished product was really great.
Definitely.
And you know, it's still, like, he still got what he wanted. And then I still felt like I had some sort of, you know, some sort of modesty in a sense, I guess.
So,
but yeah.
What for some of the sex scenes and stuff, what makes all that stuff so funny is everyone's really, you know, committed to the role. So how do you go about, you know, giving it your all when you are a little hesitant?
Well, I mean, you would just kind of get, like, for me, I would just kind of have to get through it, and you know, and wanting to get it, you know, in the first few shots, as opposed to being exposed for too long. Because even though, quote unquote, they're closed sets, there's still, on a closed set, still about 10 to 15 people around you, you know? So, you know, when you're bearing it all, you're bearing it all for everyone who's in there. And then it's also, it's not, because it's like, the fear is not that it's going to be like, you know, a turn on or anything else, because it's so unsexy.
Right.
Sex scenes on set are so unsexy, because it's like, you know, people are adjusting, like, oh, do your arm this way, or, you know, adjust your leg this way, like, oh, you know, like, now move a few inches forward and bend over. You know, it's very technical in that sense to get that shot done. So, it was more about, for me, it was like, okay, like, let me get through this first shot, you know, and hopefully we get it done this one, if not the next one. Or, you know, alcohol on some applications. But, but yeah, I mean, there's really no easy way. I mean, there's something like Michael's is like, he's like, I don't care being naked, but he's like, I don't know if someone else is going to care that I'm naked. You know, like, he was very comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it was what it was. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's like, okay, well, I signed on to some of this, you know, because I did have a nudity clause and, you know, all that. But, you know, just kind of doing it. Once you just take off the robe and let it happen.
Yeah. How would you compare Sky and Michael's actors? Because I had them both on, and Michael said, you know, Sky was very professional and he's kind of out there.
Well, yes, Michael is just he's an eccentric guy, you know? And I really, really liked working with Michael. Like, he was just really, really out there. And sometimes he would be completely off page, but that was kind of the fun of it, because you kind of never really knew what was going to come out of his mouth. Mm-hmm. So I really loved working with Michael. With Sky, yeah, we just basically would get down to business and, you know, and just get the scenes done. And because we were both focused on our dialogue or whatever, and then we would just jump into the scene.
Yeah.
And then, like, we would talk, you know, in between takes and stuff like that. But it was mainly with Sky. It was just very like, okay, we're here on set. Let's get these shots done. You know, like, let's get this going.
Yeah.
And then that was it, you know. But with Michael, there was more of a, because Michael is so endearing. You know, I think that anyone who meets Michael can't help but love him, because he's just an endearing guy. Mm-hmm. Like, we were out in New York together promoting this film when they showed it in Brooklyn. And Michael and I went around the town. You know, we took a carriage through Central Park, and, you know, it was like this whole thing. Like, I adore Michael.
Yeah. So when you're watching the movie, or would you prefer Janet to, in the perfect world, end up with Big Brayden or Big Ronnie?
I actually would have preferred her to, like, survive, first and foremost. But with neither of them, where she just threw them both away and be like, whatever, done.
Right.
Like, I got my yayas off, you know. I'm solid now.
Yeah. I don't want to spoil the movie, but the twist ending at the end does make me laugh quite a bit, because I did not see that coming.
Yeah.
What about the Hootie Tootie Disco Cutie line? Did you know that would be, like, so popular when you're filming it?
I didn't. It was so funny, well, because, like, the line was written by Jim and Toby. Like, they co-wrote the script. So Hootie Tootie Disco Cutie was always in the script. But the dance, the dance is a dance that I do, because my younger sister, Jeanette, always says that when I'm drunk, I dance like a retarded robot, and that's the dance that I do. So then I try to teach it to Michael. So Michael did his version of it. And then you also see that dance where I'm doing, like, a shorter version of that, or, like, a different version of that in the disco. Mm-hmm. So, like, the dance is me.
That's very cool. Well, I guess he was a good student, since you taught him to dance very well.
Yes, he was fantastic.
So when you watch a movie with an audience, is that nerve-wracking in itself, that, you know, people are there watching, not only you watching yourself for the first time on the big screen, but in this particular, you know, movie, and, you know, other people are there?
Oh, absolutely. It's always, and not even with this movie only, like, you know, a few weeks ago, I watched the movie Lemon, which I was a part of, and it's always just nerve-wracking. It's just, because it's like, you know, this is your work. This is, you put, you know, your, like, time and energy and everything that you've got into, you know, a particular role or whatnot, and just, you know, hearing people's reactions, you know, and you're hoping that they love it, but you never know, you know, because, again, it's like, art is so subjective. So you never know what the response is going to be. But luckily, at least everything that I've heard of from people that have that I've spoken to, they really, really like this film. You know, so I can't really complain about that because everyone has been really, really nice, and I haven't gotten like any like mean tweets or anything like that. So
right. Well,
I call that a win.
Yeah. I got some questions here from Facebook. Jason Mitten wants to know who would you consider your greatest on-screen romance? Big Ronnie, Big Brayden, or Steve Janowski?
Steve Janowski.
Uh-huh.
He's one of my dear friends. Like even now, like he's one of my dearest friends. He's like a great, great guy. But yes, I think Steve Janowski and Maria had something really, really special. And then they have 4 kids. So, I mean, yeah, that was like, I would say yes, definitely. My on-screen would be him.
Yeah. Was it just the experience like working on Eastbound and Down? And it's one of my favorite shows.
It was awesome. That was one of the best experiences of my life. I mean, I have the career that I have now, you know, thankfully because of Eastbound and Down. You know, I was so green when I was on that show, and they knew that because I had no improv background. I had never really taken any acting classes. And so when I was cast on that show, it was, you know, it changed my life, and it just working with Danny and with Steve and, you know, with Jody Hill and with David Gordon Green, who was one of our directors, you know, just working with the caliber of people that I got to work with throughout the run that it was on. I mean, like Lily Tomlin was on, John Johnson, you know, Matthew McConaughey, Jason Sudeikis. Like, I mean, we had a freaking amazing cast. Like Katie Mixon, you know, Jennifer Irwin and John Hawkes. And it was an amazing experience. And it was like family, going back to camp every summer and working in, you know, in Wilmington, North Carolina. And then sometimes we go out to Puerto Rico season 2, and then we did, you know, Myrtle Beach season 3, and then we did, was it Charlotte? I think it was Charlotte, North Carolina. Yeah, like our final season. So I don't know, it was a great experience. And working with Will Ferrell, like that was really fucking awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I loved every minute of it, and I love all those people. And like I said, I'm still really good friends with particularly Steve, you know. So yeah.
So how did you get how did you get into acting? Like, because you said that you didn't have acting classes, and what made you try out for the movies and stuff, or the TV show?
I was a girl in Texas, and I was obsessed with the X-Files. And I wanted to work with Gillian Anderson and David Duchovny. So when I turned 18, I got on a bus and I moved here because I wanted to be an actress just so that I can work on the X-Files. And then I started working as an actress. I mean, I did extra work for a bit, and then I got my first role in 2005. I had taken 1 or 2 acting classes at the local college, but that was it. And then after that, I did, you know, some stints on ER, on Southland, and United States Terror and stuff like that until I landed Eastbound and Down. But it was really literally because I was a big fangirl for the X-Files and Gillian Anderson and David Duchovny.
What did you think of the reboot of the X-Files, or the new season?
I really wanted to love it. I really wanted to love it because that show is my childhood. I mean, I started watching that show when I was 12, you know, and I remember September 10th, 1993. And it broke my heart because I felt like they were caricatures of the characters that they once were. I felt that some of the dialogue was not that great. And I know other fellow fans were probably going to be like, "You're not a real fan. You're not a real file." But, you know, I love Gillian Anderson and David Duchovny outside of season 10. I think that they're great. He was fantastic in Californication, you know, and she's been fantastic in The Fall and Hannibal. And I know, you know, I think the material was really not up to par with their acting skills. And I was disappointed. And I hope that if they do come back, that they get Vince Gilligan back, and that Chris Carter just kind of takes a back seat to because I think he's so close to it, you know. So I think having like writers like Darren Morgan and Vince Gilligan and Frank Spotnitz and you know, some of the James Wong, you know, would be really great.
I was sad Hannibal went off. I was a huge fan of Hannibal. I thought that was great TV.
Hannibal was fantastic, right?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Oh my god, the cinematography in that show was brilliant. I was like, oh my god, I was so bummed when they took it off the air. It was so good.
Yeah, no, it was
freaking
good. I was really pumped to see, you know, how they handled Silence of the Lambs in like this new world, you know, the story of the Silence of the Lambs. You know, I was really looking forward to that. But, it was really depressing.
It's such a shame. But is it Brian Fuller, right? Who was the creator of this?
Yeah, he's always talking about wanting to do it, again. So I don't know if it'll ever happen.
But isn't he also having another show now that also Gillian Anderson is a part of it?
Oh, maybe he does.
Something like Gods of something or something of God.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Because he's really great. Like I really like his stuff. And like I am also like right now I'm obsessed with Orphan Black. I'm obsessed with that show.
I've not seen that.
I'm like, oh my god, it's so good. You need to watch it. Tatiana Maslany is like freaking amazing, and that girl deserves all of the awards because the show is awesome. Orphan Black. You gotta watch it.
I will.
So good. And it's only 10 episodes per season.
Oh, nice.
The fifth and final season starts in June. But it's 10 episodes per season, so it's a super quick, like, binge watch.
Yeah.
And I totally recommend it. And as you can tell, I am a major fangirl of television.
Well, I think the last, 20 years or so has been, a golden age of television. It's been so many great TV shows.
Yeah, it's been getting really good.
Yeah. So I think a lot of it's better than movies, besides Greasy Strangler, of course. But overall,
I saw Arrival, and I thought Arrival was really great. Or maybe
I did too. I just watched that the other night.
That Amy Adams was fantastic.
Yeah, that was really original, and it's nice to see science fiction movie that's not just all action.
It reminded me, bits and pieces reminded me of Contact, the one with Jodie Foster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was good. It was good to see a science fiction movie that's not just a shoot 'em up action, like just shooting up aliens, like an actual intelligent science fiction movie.
No, it was really well made. I liked it.
Yeah, I liked it a lot too. I'm not sure how to pronounce this person's name because it's QAS. I think Cass Jordan. She wants to know, what does it mean to you personally to be a Hootie Tootie Disco Cutie? And what should I and America do to become one too?
Well, you got to get the dance down. It's so funny. I've gotten a lot of people that have asked me that on Twitter as well about being a Hootie Tootie Disco Cutie. I guess it's flattering. Thank you very much, but I think that anyone should start with no inhibitions and get the dance down. Right?
Yeah. So, when we're recording this right now, you have something coming up tonight. You want to let everyone know what that is?
Oh, I'm just attending an event. It's an event for this film that is called Cry Now. It was Lupe Ontiveros' last film before she passed away. I'm attending the event, in order to support, just support Latinos in the industry and, just kind of support this film. It was the last one that she made. So.
Yeah, actually, on a serious note, I noticed on the interview on the Blu-ray, you mentioned this was maybe the first or one of the first roles you had where. It never really comes up what nationality you are. You just happen to be an actor in the movie. And I thought that was, it wasn't something I thought about when I was watching it. But then afterwards, that's really cool. And I don't know if it's something you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, like, because most of the time, I mean, and not that I don't appreciate the job, by the way, you know, like I do,
yeah,
like I'm just glad to keep working. But most of the time I've been, you know, either a maid or a nanny or something or other like that, you know, or a gangbanger's girlfriend, stuff like that. And what I really liked about the Greasy Strangler, you know, once I got out of my head for a bit, you know, because I was so neurotic about things, it was the fact that my being a Latina was never mentioned, there was never any allusion to it. It was just, I was just a girl who was, you know, going back and forth between these two men, you know, and I was like the vixen. I was like, you know, like pitting them against each other. Like I was just kind of stirring the pot. So I loved that's what it was. I was just this character, Janet. That was it, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
And it's rare, at least for me, to get roles like that. It's been rare because, you know, like I mentioned, you know, although on Eastbound and Down, I wasn't really, the way that I was told on Eastbound and Down was that in season 2, she was like a nurse or was studying to be a nurse. But then in season 3, I ended up taking care of Toby, so I ended up being Toby's nanny, essentially. But and then in season 4, Maria was doing hair. So technically, I guess Eastbound and Down also, I never really thought of that, but people assumed that I was like something like that on Eastbound and Down, but because I couldn't speak English, you know, because I had the accent and stuff. But yeah, no, I really like that, and the part that they allowed me to be a person. Yeah, they just allow me to be a person.
That's like what, you know, because that would be what true equality is. It doesn't, you know, matter. It's not even brought into tension. Did you keep the wig or any of the wardrobe?
Oh gosh, I wish. No, the wardrobe we went and Chris, I was there with Christina when she was pulling it from Universal. So she borrowed it from the costume department there at Universal, and the wig I didn't get to keep, and the merkin, there's no way I wanted to keep because I wore that thing for the 3 weeks, and the thing was falling apart. Because she had to hand lay it. My makeup artist Lex, God bless her, because I was like spread eagle on this house, and like inside this house that was like falling apart, and she was like literally like my hoo-ha was out for the entire world to see, and she would hand lay it. She would hand glue it to my hoo-ha, which I had to have a Brazilian for, so that she could just hand lay the hair. And then, so, you know, like you're working anywhere from 12 to 14 hours a day, and you're sweating, and you're gross. And then I still had to spread my legs for her at the end of the day, and she had to go back in there and take it off by hand.
Is it worse putting it on or taking it off?
Taking it off, because taking it off can hurt a bit for sure.
That's what I thought. Yeah. Sky said a similar thing.
I didn't get to keep anything for Greasy Strangler, but I got to keep the tips from Eastbound and Down.
You get to keep the what?
The tips from Eastbound and Down.
Awesome, very cool.
In season 4, I got a fake boob, and I got to keep those. Yeah.
I thought that's what you said, but I thought I better say. I better ask, make sure. So, what do you have coming up?
Well, I have a film right now, the one that I told you about, Lemon, that just went to Sundance, and I believe they got distribution for it, and that was a great cast with Brett Gelman, Rhea Perlman, Megan Mullally, Jeff Garlin. Oh my gosh, why am I forgetting her name? Judy Greer. Sherry Appleby. I mean, it's a massive cast, and it's a great cast. So that's coming out. And then there's this other film that I filmed a couple of years ago, actually right after Greasy Strangler in Canada, which I believe has distribution as well, and it's called Frat Pack. And then I have another movie that's in post-production right now that's called Sailboat, and I filmed that in New Mexico, and J.K. Simmons is in that one.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Always a huge fan of his. Yeah. Ever since Oz, actually. But that's very cool. So
I loved him on The Closer.
Yeah. What's cool about him is like on Oz, he plays a really like a scary neo-Nazi, and then but other things he could play like a nice nice like kind of uncle or something, and so he could play all different roles, and he's very believable.
Yeah,
in them.
well, like in Juno.
Yeah, exactly.
Remember him in Juno? He plays the dad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's so weird because you would think he would play someone who's either he could play like a nice guy or the evil guy, but anything he could play like all different roles, and he's very believable in all of them.
Oh, totally.
Mm-hmm. So, what kind of genre do you usually work in? Comedy or?
Well, I've been working a lot in comedy, which is it was so funny because I never imagined myself in the comedy world. I always thought comedy was too hard. Like I didn't think that I was funny or that I had timing. Because again, I never took improv classes, so everything that I learned, I honestly learned on set on Eastbound and Down, like working with Danny and Steve. And just watching them do their thing is how I kind of like learned to do my thing. But I always wanted to be in drama. I always wanted to be like, in a procedural or something like that, or the X-Files. But yeah, now I mostly do comedy. That's what I get called in for a lot of the time.
You mentioned Contact and X-Files. What's your favorite kind of movies or TV shows to watch? Is it science fiction or?
You know what? I love everything. I mean, because I just as much as I loved, and I did love I Want to Believe. I know that some files didn't. I love the X-Files, Back to the Future, and I Want to Believe, and I really like Contact. But I also love movies like one of my favorite films of all time is Gone with the Wind and Sense and Sensibility, and it just goes. And then I love Crybaby by John Waters, and it just I have a very broad. There's like a big spectrum of like what I like. It's not one concentrated on one thing, I guess. Yeah. I'm the same way. I know I do a horror show here, but I like pretty much anything. That if I like it, I like it. Is the way it goes. But if you're asking me for horror, I mean, I'm obsessed. I was obsessed with Freddy Krueger since I was a kid.
Oh, really?
Like I started watching Nightmare on Elm Street when I was like 5 or 6, and I can't believe my parents didn't let me watch it. But I loved Freddy.
Yeah.
Loved Freddy, and I love all of the Freddy Krueger films. Like, I don't care what, like, even the later ones that got cheesy, like Dream Warriors.
Right.
And then it was the one, I think it was 4 or 5 that was a bit much for me. But, like, I loved all of those films. I did not like the remake. I didn't care for the remake.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it was missing Robert Englund.
Definitely.
Because I think he just made Freddy so sinister, but also there was, like, a weirdly likability factor about him, like because he was like funny as well.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, and
I think if they're going to do a remake of Nightmare on Elm Street, they would have to do it with Robert Englund because I don't think anyone can capture what he captured.
Yeah, and I thought they went too far with the. It's kind of like hinted at the first movie, but they went too far with him being like a child molester. Because then it's like, how can you root for that? It sounds weird. You can root for the killer, but it's like I can't root for a child molester. Then I'd just be like, weirdo.
Exactly, because like in the first one, you kind of had an idea that he had done that, or like you knew, but it wasn't really as like right in your face about it.
Right.
I mean, like again, it's not like it needs to be right in your face about it for you to think that that's horrible. But I don't know. They just did it in such a way where you're just like. Like, yeah, that person's being annoying, yeah, you should off them, kind of thing.
Yeah.
As opposed to where this film, you're just like, get the motherfucker, kill him, kill him.
Exactly.
I even like Freddy versus Jason, BT dubs.
No, a lot of, that seems like it's picking up in popularity over the years. I know a lot of people listen to the show really like it. I always think the most underrated one, I don't think it's the best one, but I think the most underrated one was New Nightmare, because I just thought it was really original.
Oh my God, I love that one.
I love it
Although,
too.
You know what, the end of it kind of, I was like, But
when they actually go, the whole idea of it.
When she went through like the covers and stuff into the dream world to go find her son.
Right.
Up until that point, I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah, just the idea of it's like really smart.
Yes.
Something to think.
It was so meta. It was so freaking meta. Like, I don't know. I'm totally with you on that one. New Nightmare, man.
Yeah, and it was cool because it kind of made you like ask even yourself as a fan. It's like, why do we cheer for the killer? In the movie. And,
yeah.
It's really interesting. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, I didn't let Heather Langenkamp do this thing, I Am Nancy, and she was asking people, like she went around the country at different cons.
Yeah.
Yeah, like asking people like why they were for the kill or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wanted to buy them. I never did.
Yeah. It's really good. Yeah,
yeah.
I had her on a few years ago too when that came out, talking about it. It's a good documentary. There's one really long documentary, Never Sleep Again, where it covers every movie, and it's like 4 hours long, but it's definitely worth watching because like they spend time on every one of them. It's not, they don't rush through even kind of the sillier ones, and so that one's definitely worth watching. I like that a lot. I think it might even be on Netflix right now.
Really? Oh, yeah. I might watch that. I love that stuff because I love that franchise.
Yeah.
And I think, like, it's okay to bring it back if they can do it properly.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, don't touch it if you can't make it better.
Yeah. Yeah, he's in a new documentary where he's putting the makeup on for, like, the last time. It's Nightmares from the Makeup Chair or something like that. And it's a documentary about makeup in film. And it sounds really cool. It's Robert Englund, talking about while they're putting on the Freddy Krueger makeup.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, did you see that Danny McBride and I think David Gordon Green they're bringing back, what was it? What franchise?
Halloween.
Yeah, Halloween.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
I did not like the Rob Zombie remake.
I don't either. I think they really missed the point of what made Michael Myers scary.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, like, I don't know for you, but for me, the reason I always found Michael so scary was because he had no reason to be the way that he was. Yeah. He just was.
Mm-hmm.
He came from a family that was just, upper middle class and like middle America,
mm-hmm.
that just seemed, and he was just evil.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to the Rob Zombie, like he was made by his environment into this,
right.
killer.
Because, when you watch the first one, it makes you think then, what's scary about it is like, well, I'm in the suburbs, so, anybody around me can just become a killer, and that's scary. As opposed to, the bully
kid. Which they
kind
of have. Like, look at Jeffrey Dahmer and at Ted Bundy.
Exactly,
you know?
Mm-hmm. And then it's so cool with Loomis because he really sells how evil he is because he's a psychiatrist, and he's like, I spent 8 years, trying to find him, and then he just realizes he's evil, and he's like, then...
exactly. And I think that was the brilliance of the original film with the Rob Zombie ones. It was just like, like the mom was a stripper, like the stepdad was like just abusive and an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, I felt like it really took away from the actual,
and he's bullied at and he's bullied at school, so it's like you would assume maybe he wouldn't be a killer, but you assume he's not going to turn out to be the best.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then plus when he's
for sure.
Yeah, plus then when he is like the killer, he's like 7 feet tall, and it's like, well, everyone would be scared of that guy anyway if he wasn't a killer.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, well, of course I would run away from that guy. But, when he's just a normal sized guy.
For Danny and them to like get it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I listened to him on WTF with Mark Maron podcast, and he talked about when he went to film school, he wanted to like make a horror movie, and he didn't even want to. He wasn't like looking to be into comedy, so I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." And then it was not too long after that, as when I listened to it anyway, that it came out that he was going to do Halloween. I was like, "Oh, that's really cool." I'm looking forward to his take on it.
Yeah,
because he's obviously very talented, and it'd be interesting to see him do some sides of comedy. And he's also going to be in the new Alien movie, which is interesting.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So this isn't an interview with Danny McBride, but I do like Danny McBride, so that's very cool.
And I worked with him, so
yeah. It all ties together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I guess I was gonna say, would you work again with Jim Hosking, the director of Greasy Strangler?
I would if he'd have me, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that we worked out, the issues in the end of like, and again, it was just more, my my hesitancy of like really, really tackling it, properly because I also didn't want for him to compromise his vision.
Sure.
But even though I didn't want him to compromise his vision, I don't want to compromise myself.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the end we worked everything out. So yeah, I would totally work with him again.
Cool. And what's the easy? This always sounds weird. What's the easiest way to find you? But I don't mean like come and find you. But,
you're like, how can I stalk you? Just kidding.
Right. So people would like to follow you online.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. My handle's at @eDerazzo, so it's just E for my first name Elizabeth, and then my last name Derazzo. And then on Facebook, I have a public page that my friend runs, but I always answer questions.
Mm-hmm.
But my friend runs it for me, and I think it's Elizabeth Derazzo at Facebook. And then I'm on Instagram as Elizabeth Derazzo as well, and people message me there all the time as well. And if you just send me, if you send me a tweet and I see it and you want to ask me a question or something, I always end up following people and they can DM me and stuff like that. I'm not I respond. If you contact me, I do respond unless I'm really, really busy or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
Because I'm a fan of people and I'm how would I someone to respond to me? And that's how I respond. So.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I really appreciate coming on tonight. I had a blast talking to you.
No, thank you so much for having me on. This is really cool.
Very cool. Yeah. No, I honestly love the Greasy Strangler. Not too often do I just when I heard the name of it, I was like, that sounds awesome. And then I was like, I see the trailer and I'm like, oh my God, this looks wild. And I'm like, there's no way it's gonna live up to my expectations, but I watched it and I was like, yes it does, this is hilarious. So.
That's awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Thank you. Yes.